Man, shalom, shalom. Yeah, I think I messed up on my music, y'all, but shalom, shalom, everyone. It's Elder Martin. Can everybody hear me back out there today? Just make sure we can get everybody to hear me. Let's see. Okay, cool. All right, shalom, shalom, y'all. And I apologize for the intro, but tried to try a new. I got somebody to make me a new intro video, but I think it was playing the same music from last, from the Adam teaching. So, but hey, speaking of the Adam, I know a lot of people they were waiting on me to get that back started. So I do apologize, but I was kind of led to teach the lesson that's about to come out. With the Adam, we will be getting back to it, but I know last week I was sitting around just like, okay, I'm gonna see which one I might do next week. But then when we had the Psalms class, Elder Jenkins actually, he was touching on a lot of stuff, so it was almost like, okay, so once he was speaking a lot on the sufferings and things of that nature, then I just knew that, okay, this the route that I'm gonna go. So, but we'll pick back up on the Adam. I'll definitely make sure that, because we got quite a bit to go with that. So I just want to bring forth this lesson. And but before we get started, I just want to make the quick announcement that we normally do make here, that we here at the King James Bible University and the House of the Lost Sheep, we are not affiliated with or associated with any Christian organization, any black Hebrew Israelite Christian street camp. Well, they both teach hate, but we stand alone. We anybody that falls under that King James Bible banner, those are the ones that, those are the only ones that we deal with. We don't deal with anybody outside of the body. And that's basically, for good reason. So a lot of them, they teach out of other books, things of that nature. But everything that we stand on can be found in the 1611 King James Bible University. With the 1611 King James Bible, with the Apocrypha, and that's the one that we stand on. So with that, we're going to get into this lesson. And the lesson is entitled Being Chosen by God, finding true love through suffering, And the question is, what is suffering? You can always look at suffering. It could be seen, you can see suffering where it be, painful moments you might be going through where you might feel helpless, not knowing where to turn. It can also be in marriages. It can be basically in your everyday life, where you go through these hardships and so forth. These are the things also that really they can't be taken for granted. There's always something behind every situation we find ourselves in. You have to think about that paradox that Elder taught on, where it's always something moving behind what we can physically see. And if we, keep our eyes on that way, then it'll help us out a whole lot more. So, and then, as I say, even being chosen by God. And that's a question also. What is being chosen by God? You'll get a lot of people that look at being chosen, it's like some sort of privilege, that it's going to get you VIP access to the kingdom. But being chosen requires actually so much more. Being chosen is actually as a responsibility, and it has to be, with that responsibility, it has to be accomplished at all costs. So this, with that responsibility is also being able to endure these hardships, going through this different persecution. and then still, able to keep your focus on finishing out the duties that you were assigned to. So, to basically put it, I guess in layman's term, they would say, you got to be willing to go through some suffering to become the vessel that's needed to fulfill the duties of JEHOVAH. And these are what he's given to his chosen. And then, as I was saying earlier, you also has this other way of struggling because, we struggle because of disobedience, from breaking covenants. All of this still can go hand in hand, and we're going to touch on both of them. So we're going to go ahead and get these Bibles showing, so I don't have to keep talking. I know y'all ready to learn, so we're going to go ahead and get to it. So remember, many are called but few are chosen. You know what I'm saying? But being chosen, right, it's in fact, it's a preparation for this bigger task that, that's out there. It's through this preparation you get to form these leaders, which then brings in this resilience. And then it brings a transformation also that reflects JEHOVAH's heavenly qualities. So it basically shows strength, discipline, and purpose. So we're going to pull something in James. We're going to go to James 2. My Bible's been kind of acting up, so it's almost like got a whole lot going on, but we're gonna make it through this one. We got James chapter 2 and verse 5. It say, "Hearken, my beloved brethren, have not God chosen the poor out of this world, rich in faith, and heirs of the kingdom which he had promised to them that promise him?" So that's saying a lot. So a lot of time, I'm gonna say most of the time, things are basically brought to light, through sufferings. You can also just think back about our, with our forefathers and the foremothers that when they was in Egypt. So I want to show some, pertaining to that when our forefathers and foremothers was in Egypt. So you can just focus on the things that they had to go through. So we'll start in, I already got Exodus. We'll hit Exodus chapter 1. Let's start at verse 8. And I'm going to go down to 14. It said, "Now there arose a new king over Egypt," over the house of bondage. Let me highlight this. We'll just go down, y'all. "Which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, remember, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land." All right, so we see what's finna go on. It said, "For that reason they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses." And that's still going on today. These taskmasters in these church buildings, right? "But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor." Right? So we see this affliction that's actually going on. So we can see this. We can also look at actually these same afflictions as a way for, even today, when things like that's actually going on, we should be able to just question, like, why is this happening? Why are we always going through things of that nature? And what can or should we do to break away from this type of bondage? this is things that should actually start to just come in our head when we going through these different type of bondages and captivities, right? And then through these bondages and afflictions, sometimes when you going through this, a lot of the times, leaders are produced through this type of stuff, through these afflictions. So the same way that pressure, can turn these rough stones to diamonds, so can these afflictions and suffering bring forth them same, the chosen ones from JEHOVAH. So I want to show some stuff on that. We'll just jump over to the next chapter. We're going to go to Exodus 2 because I want to just show you how JEHOVAH actually operates. So we're going to do Exodus chapter 2, and we'll start at 1 and 2, and then we're going to jump down. It say, just know, like I say, we saw back in chapter 1 the afflictions and all of that going on, but it still takes you back to that paradox that behind those afflictions is always something at work, and that's basically what we finna see. It say, and there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi, and the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. So we see it's something brewing, behind the scenes that these people can't see spiritually. All they just see is, the suffering, the pain, all of that they going through. But it's actually something behind the scenes at work. All right. So we're going to do verse 5, and then we're going to go down to 10. It say, and the daughter of Pharaoh came. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. Right? So she saw this ark. So, and we know the ark, if you're looking at that ark, we know it's the heart of God, that desire God. But what she saw was this chest. So just think of your physical chest, which that contains a heart. If you're doing right, we'll just put it like that. And that's that desire of God that should be in there. So that ark or that chest always has something within it that's contained within it, and that should be the desire of God, right? And then she saw that ark among the flags. And we know the flags can be, when you look at flags, you can look at those as banners, right? And then when you think of banners, just look at those as like symbols or markers. So when she's seeing these arcs amongst the flags, she's seeing these banners, these symbols, these markers of a belief that they hold to, right? And so you got the heart of God that's amongst this Egyptian stuff. So you can just look at it like that, and we're going to keep reading. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, right? And remember, the babe wept. And I, just doing a little quick thing on that, a lot of times you'll see things in scripture where someone wept. And a lot of time that's actually for a true purpose. Is when someone wept, like, because it's saying the babe wept. That can be for the mourn. They mourning for the hurt or the condition of a people. And I want to pull something right quick just to show that. So when you see, even when Jesus wept or things like that, it's for a certain hurt or a condition of a people. We're going to pull something right quick. We're going to go to Psalms. Yeah, bear with me, my Bible moving a little slower today. We're going to do Psalms 137. We're going to do Psalms 137, and then we'll do verse 1. And say, by the rivers of Babylon, right? There we sat down, yea, we wept. So they wept because of the conditions of the people when we remember Zion. And we'll look at that one that I was speaking on right quick. Let's look at that. I'm going to use my quicker Bible. So we're going to go to Luke. And we'll do 19. And we'll pull, let's go to 39. And we'll just go down to 34. I don't think I can highlight it. We'll just do it like that. Luke 19:39 through 34. It say, and some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciple. And we're going to take from 40 to 44. It say, and he answered and said unto them, I tell you, that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. And when he was come near, he beheld a city, and he wept over it. Why? Because he's seeing the hurt or the conditions of the people. So, saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thy eyes. So we'll just stop right there just to show when, so it's going back over here. It's saying when she had opened it, she saw the child, and remember, the babe wept. It was just more of like a symbolism of the conditions of the people being in bondage in Egypt, right? And she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? And we're going to go down to 10, I said. Yeah, 10. Because we looking at the inner workings was actually going on. And Pharaoh's daughter said it to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter. And he became her son, and she called his way Moses. And she said, because I have drew him out of the water. So it's actually saying a lot, but we actually see what's actually going on here. This was something that was working behind the scenes of what our physical eyes couldn't see. So, and the purpose that should be seen through this is for each of us to, even look within ourselves, everybody out here, and I want to show you something because when you think of, like I said, being chosen, it basically holds a strong responsibility. So we're gonna go to 2 Chronicles, and we're gonna pull 6, and then we'll do 6. It say, but I have chosen Jerusalem, that my way might be there, and I have chosen David, the beloved, to be over my people Israel. So that's we see he actually has chosen Jerusalem. So each one of us here, as I said, if you have been chosen, then there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. So we have to go out, rebuke Satan. We have to still help teach the poor, the lame, the blind, because he did this. He basically plucked us out from a people, and we still supposed to go put forth work for that. I wanted to show something right quick with that. Let's go to Zechariah, just to show how the Most High actually operates. We're going to go to Zechariah right quick. Just scroll. And we'll pull 3. And let's hit 2. Zechariah 3 and 2. It say, and the Spirit of God said unto Satan, the Spirit of God rebuked thee, O Satan, even the Spirit of God that had chosen Jerusalem. And we see that back over in 2 Chronicles. Jerusalem, even that have chosen Jerusalem, rebuked thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? So we see who he's chosen. We see this people who he had plucked out of the fire, our, the bad conditions we grew up in. So we owe it to ourselves for, to try to get this right. But, there's always something behind the conditions that we're in, as I said. So we definitely need to start to look at that, because that's where a lot of this suffering comes from. But we're going to go to 2 Maccabees, just to show that we got choices, but it's a lot, that we need to look at. So we're going to do 2 Maccabees chapter 7. And just think about this verse. Check 2 Maccabees chapter 7 verse 19. It said, but think not thou that takest in thy hand to strive against God. So that's us. We can try to look at whoever these scripts, but this is us. But think not thou that takest in thy hand to fight against God, that thou shouldst escape unpunished. How can we do this? I'm just basically bringing it even more closer to home. We were brought across the waters of affliction, and that's basically brought to another side of the country, another side of the world. So I just basically call it the waters of afflictions. We were brought across here by the rod of men, which he always said he would use to punish us. And all of us was basically a part of that punishment. A lot of folks, you'll get them to say, oh, well, y'all wasn't a part of that. Oh, yeah, you was a part of it, because scripture basically tells you a lot. So we're going to look at something right quick just to show. I'm going to show you some. Let's go to Hebrew. We're going to do chapter 7. See, Hebrew chapter, let me make sure I got it. Okay. And we'll just do 8 through 10, just to show you how we was a part of it. It said, and here men that die receive tithes, but there he receiveth them, of whom it is witness that he liveth. And we go. And as I may say so, Levi also, who received a tithe, paid tithes in Abraham. So Levi was paying tithes when he wasn't even around to Abraham, for he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. So he wasn't born, but he was in the loins. And that's the same way we were when we were brought across the waters of affliction. We was in the loins of our forefathers. We was in the loins of our forefathers when we stood on that mount making a covenant. So all of this is, we have to get this right. And that's basically what I'm trying to get you to see. But even going through all of this, it still shouldn't define, who we are. We don't never have to, because we here. So it ain't no need to come up with excuses, about having a hard life, having this victimhood mentality that, all that do is just kind of like drive us way further away from our purpose of being JEHOVAH's servants. But really, in reality, it's through those type of adversities that those who are chosen, basically, they built up. They just start to shine a whole lot brighter. So, as we sit back and think about, our history, the trials of poverty that a lot of us come from, suffering, mistreatment, that a lot of us grew up in. What did we actually learn from it? Should we treat others the same way we were treated? No, we don't do that. Because, as I said, we were warned of our choices. And we'll look at that right quick. Let's go to Deuteronomy. We just pull Deuteronomy 28. Everything, and like I said, we were warned because we was in the loins of our forefathers. So It's a Deuteronomy 28:15. It's a hold on. It say, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Spirit of God thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So, as I said earlier, seeing, even being over here, how, we were treated, it should, subconsciously just show us how this leadership should actually look. That's basically how you should actually look at it. When you see mistreatment, you should basically be able to see how leadership should look. Not, giving people affliction, but having this compassion to others. That don't mean that we being docile, but we just more so being that light that shines brighter through tough times. And that's how we start to become, Jehovah's servant, how we can get built up that way. So, and, throughout, the history that we've been through, the bondage, it always shows that, he always has someone within that captivity that's chosen. It never fails. There's always somebody amongst his people that has to, go out and, do the things that's needed. And we do have that here. I have to say that we do, because, we have a pastor here that, we over here, but we had a pastor here that went across the country to gain the wisdom to bring it back to us. It is no different than how you would see in scripture, where you have Moses, doing the same thing, going to get this knowledge to go, teach his people. So, and that's basically how a lot of things actually goes. One, he is always one he chooses. So, and the one that he normally chooses, they're gonna face even more greater suffering and testing. And that this through this suffering is basically a means of preparation. It ain't a sign that Jehovah actually abandoned us, but it's just showing that he been waiting on us. It's us that's supposed to acknowledge, our stuff. So, but we're gonna pull some stuff just to show that. We're gonna go to 1 Kings, and we'll go to 8, and let's pull 1 Kings chapter 8. Let's go to 46, and then we'll go to 52. And it's basically kind of like telling our story. It say, if they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not, and thou be angered with them, and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captive unto the land of the enemy, far or near. Yet, if they shall bethink themselves in the land whither they were carried captive, and repent, and make supplications unto thee in the land of them that carried them captive, saying, we have sinned and have done perversely, we have committed wickedness, and so return unto thee with all of their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto thee toward their land, which thou gavest unto their fathers, the city which thou hast chosen, we got that still, and the house which I have built for thy way. Then hear thou their prayer and their supplications in heaven, thy dwelling place, and maintain their cause. And forgive thy people that have sinned against thee, and all their transgression, wherein they have transgressed. And we'll just take it to 52. Against thee, and give them compassion before them who carried them captive, that they may have compassion on them. For they be thy people, thine inheritance, which thou broughtest forth out of Egypt from the midst of the furnace of iron, that thy eyes and thy understanding may be open unto the supplications of thy servant, and unto the supplications of thy people Israel, to hearken unto them, and all that they call for unto thee. So It basically said everything that, what I was trying to say. You know, we have to acknowledge all of the things that we've done against them. We have to take this serious because we only get one shot at this. That truth have come to us, so now we have to get a little bit more. Well, I'm gonna say a whole lot more serious because nobody know when that number gonna come up. So, but just going back to suffering, right? Suffering, like I said, it has a purpose. You know what I'm saying? It actually has a purpose and refinement. It's taking you through that refining furnace, right? Suffering is basically, it ain't meaningless. It's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to bring that spiritual shift or that opportunity for transformation, right? And then that refining, going through that refining furnace is actually designed to do a couple of things to form that resilience in us. So, you would say the hotter the furnace, it can build this unbreakable strength, this endurance. It allows us to actually seek knowledge. That adversity supposed to have us where we supposed to be. Yeah, once we hear this truth, we supposed to get into deep learning, understanding, and a lot of that, you can't. There's no way to actually get into that when you have this easy life. When you grew up in this easy life, a lot of that, you comfortable. You're not worrying about that. But the way a lot of us grew up, it should be a burn on the inside of us that, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but is yeah. And like I said, without struggling, a lot of times some of us stay weak. We lack this depthness, this wisdom, and we lack leadership qualities. And a lot of that comes from not going through struggles. The comforts of life, and they can't produce these dedicated servants, this leadership. It don't produce transformative changes. This struggles are what creates this character that we need. And it changes our outcome and our mindset, and that's what we need. So as we sit back, and think a little bit more on that suffering, it can be, like I said, of evidence. It can be an evidence of something being prepared for this higher purpose, just showing that, God hasn't forgotten about us. He hasn't. I just know, He hasn't forgotten about any one of us. It's either but when you have this suffering now, also you got to remember, is either a sign of from being punished or being tested and refined. So as you got two different, ways you can look at it. Is either you being punished or you being tested and refined. And all of that, like I said, is for a purpose far beyond our individual comfort. So I want to show you something, though. We're going to go to Ezekiel. I'm going to pull chapter 21. Ezekiel chapter 21. And we'll go 8, and we're going to go down just to show, like I say, it depends on which one of these sufferings that we're going to go through, but we can see this one here ain't good once we read it. It say, again, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy and say, thus says the Spirit of God, say, a sword is sharpened, and is also furbished. It is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? So ain't gonna be no joy in this one, right? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree, and he have given it to be furbished that it may be handled. This sword is sharpened, and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. Cry and howl, son of man, for it shall be upon my people. It shall be upon all the princes of Israel. terrors by reasons of the sword shall be upon my people. I'm going to go down to 17. The sword shall be upon my people, smite for that reason upon the thigh, because it is a trial. So we already see. And what if the sword contemn even the rod? It shall be no more, said the Creator. Thou, for that reason, son of man, prophesy and smite thy hands together, and let the sword be doubled the third time. The sword of the slain, it is the sword of the great men that are slain, will enter into their private chambers. I have set the point of the sword against all their gates, right? That their heart may faint, and their ruins may be multiplied. It is made bright. So you can see if he finding comfort in this. It is wrapped up for the slaughter. Go, thee one way or other, either on the right hand or on the left, whithersoever thy face is set. I will also smite my powers together, and I will cause my fury to rest. I, the Spirit of God, have said it. So this is actually, we got a lot of work to do, because things like this take place when we not doing what we supposed to do. And this is, breaking covenants, breaking commandments. So we see he's not one of those guys that's just going to sit back and just let it ride. He had measures set in place for a lot of the stuff we do. So, but we, as I said earlier, through that bondage, the bondage and the suffering, JEHOVAH, he actually bring forth these leaders, as I said, which understand what growing up in hardship feel like. They got this inner strength in them, and this compassion for the mistreatment of others. So I want to show you that right quick with Moses, because when you think of a great leader, you can't find one better than Moses. The different elements he displayed. So we're going to go to Exodus chapter 2. Let's do 11 through 12. It say, and it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. So, and it's still a part, going through the suffering, the hardships and stuff. Even though Moses grew up in a household where, they tried to make it easy for him. But, I guess the question is, did Moses actually suffer? Yeah, he did suffer, because one thing about life, when you see an opportunity to do something about, mistreatment to others, and you don't do anything about it, then that ain't actually suffering, but, because you come a part of that problem. But Moses, he couldn't take it no more. He couldn't suffer like that anymore from seeing the mistreatment of his own people. So, and that takes you to where JEHOVAH was actually saying that, it's no greater love than for a man to lay down his life, or put away a lifestyle. And, he had the lifestyle of Egyptians. So he put away that a lifestyle for a friend. So, and that's Moses. So we're going to go to, we'll just hit the next chapter over to show Moses actually, and we'll start at 3 and go down to 10 just to show, him being prepared to be that true leader, being built up to get his people. And Moses said, I will now turn aside, and we'll take it down to, let's start right now. And I will now turn aside and see this great sight while the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that, he turned aside to see God. God called to him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh, neither put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Right? Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Spirit of God said, here we go, I have surely seen the afflictions of my people, which are in Egypt. So all of this had been going on since he was a babe. The things that we couldn't physically see was basically about to be made known now. And I have heard their cry by reason of their taskmaster, for I know their sorrows. So, and that's what a lot of people go on in bondage, go through these things. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand or the power of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land, and a large and flowing land with milk and honey, unto the place let me do this. We'll just take it down to 10. The Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now, for that reason, remember the cry, the children of Israel is coming to me, and I have also seen the oppression. So all of this goes on, wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now for that reason, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. So this is, it's actually just showing Moses was chosen from birth, and we kind of saw that already. He was chosen from birth to do a work for JEHOVAH, and we always know that he always choose his from the womb. And we're gonna look at something right quick to kind of show that. We're gonna go to Isaiah just to show that Moses was marked in the womb to basically come and do this. Being born in bondage. We're gonna do Isaiah 49, and let's pull verse 5. We'll do 5 down to 8. It say, and now said the Spirit of God that formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of the Spirit of God, and my God shall be my strength. Hold on. I'll take it to 8. And this is basically everything that Moses was doing. And he said, it is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserver Israel. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth. Thus said the Spirit of God, the Redeemer of Israel and his Holy One. Right? To him whom man despiseth, to him whom the nations abhor, to a servant of rulers, kings shall see and arise, princes also shall worship, because of the Spirit of God that is faithful, and the Holy One of Israel, and he shall choose thee. Thus said the Spirit of God, here we go, in an acceptable time I have heard thee, and in a day of salvation have I helped thee. And I will preserve thee, and I will give thee for a covenant of the people, to establish the earth, to cause to inherit the desolate heritages. So that's actually, everything that was going on. Moses was sent, being this born leader, to go get his people that are in bondage, to show, and it's actually just showing that, which we know Moses is mean the word of truth, and it's just showing that the word of truth is the only thing that can free us from this mental prison house. So, and that's what he had to go do. So we can always remember also now that the reason we got a problem today, because we already saw in well, we can look at another verse just to show that. We'll go to Deuteronomy. We're going to pull 7. And let's do verse 6. It say, for thou art a holy people unto the Spirit of God thy God. The Spirit of God thy God have chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So we see we are a chosen people, meaning it's something expected of you. Something is required of you. But we do know all Israel is not Israel, and that's Romans 9:6. So we know true Israel, they actually walk according to the promise. They don't, like I said, they don't complain about past life or what others have in this world. Those are not Israel, right? So I'm going to pull some in Numbers just to show separation on that right quick. Numbers, we'll do 11. We'll do 1 through 3. It say, and when the people complain, it displeased the Spirit of God, and the Spirit of God heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Spirit of God burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And when the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Spirit of God, the fire was quenched, and he called the well that place to Beer, because the fire of the Spirit of God burnt among them. So it's actually just showing that those who actually, like I say, they look like Israel, they probably smell like Israel, but they more so concerned with the worldly matters. So they're gonna always murmur, complain, and these, you can look at those when you think about Ezekiel 21 and 27. Those will be the ones that actually get overturned. So because we already know that these true leaders, they don't get caught up in affairs of this world. They actually find solutions, to make others understand what their purpose is in JEHOVAH. So, and it's going back to our responsibility, the ones that's chosen, the ones who are chosen, they undertake that responsibility. Like I said, they success, the ones who are chosen, it ain't based on wealth of this world, fate, that FATE, fate, or status, but it's actually having that spiritual connection with the one and true God, and that's JEHOVAH. And that actually gives them that ability to, be able to uplift others, and bringing that enlightenment to the ones that choose to join the house of JEHOVAH. So, but we're gonna drive some stuff home a little bit more, when we even think about, our forefathers in Egypt, right? They was enslaved in Egypt for many generations. You could just say under rough conditions, afflictions, and like I said, it's from our own choices or from their choices, but still the same as us. And then, even through the deliverance, when Moses came, they still had to, wander in the wilderness 40 years. But all of this was still done for a purpose, and that purpose was to forge this people to become, capable of receiving that promised land, actually fulfilling their divine mission, building up this people that's rooted, in wisdom, knowledge, understanding. So we can actually look at us too, when we look at that, is everything, like they always say, is nothing new under the sun. So when we look at our own history, right, you can see this same parallel where, these specific things we went through, where we'll just say the trials, affliction, where we ourselves, we were torn from our homeland, transatlantic slave trade, I think that's what they call it. Yeah, the transatlantic slave trade, but it was actually just this righteous judgment. A lot of us was, and our foremothers was subjected to all type of, unspeakable acts. We had this systemic dehumanization, I think that's what they call it, where you had slavery, segregation, discrimination, all of that was, but it was done for a purpose, because because of us. So if we can keep that in our mind, it's gonna help us. All of this it was designed to break the pride of our spirit, and he said that to us. So we can look at that. We'll go to Leviticus. We'll pull Leviticus chapter 26, and then let's pull 19. He said, and I will break the pride of your power, and I will make your heaven as iron and your earth as brass. So we already see, yeah, just getting across that water wasn't enough. He was gonna make sure our spirits broke, and that's how, you know what I mean, when you actually you break covenants. That's why you know it always say you shouldn't vow a vow that you can't keep, and we all done that. Let's look at something in Nehemiah right quick. We'll go to where we at, Nehemiah, and we'll pull chapter 1. We'll read 6 to 9. It say, Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 6 down to 9. It said, let thy ear now be attentive and thy eyes open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now, day and night, for the children of Israel, thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against thee. This is what we're supposed to do. Both I and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against thee, and have not kept the commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments, which thou had commanded thy servant Moses. Right? Remember, I beseech thee, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, if ye transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. And then we'll just do 9. It said, but if ye turn unto me, and keep my commandments, and do them, though there were of you cast out into the uttermost parts of the heaven, yet will I gather them from thence, and will bring them into the place that I have chosen to set my way there. So we see it's an out. You know what I mean? So, hey, despite this punishment that, you know what I mean, we've went through, and, you know, a lot of this sustained oppression that a lot of blacks have went through, we still was spared through his mercy, because we still here, you know what I mean? We still here able to, you know what I mean, to learn of him. So that's just a great mercy that he showed to us, and we can see that right quick in Isaiah. We'll pull Isaiah chapter 10. Let's pull 20 through 22. It say, and it shall come to pass in that day, and it's basically what's going on, in that day, that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Spirit of God, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. The consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. So we see that, you know what I mean, a lot of us have adapted. A lot of us have basically awakened from this deep sleep. You know what I mean? So it's still going back to that suffering, you know what I mean, that we've been through. You know what I mean, was for this certain purpose. You know, our history, it wasn't just like some just random that just happened, but it was just punishment. You know what I mean? Like I said, that fire that, you know what I mean, we had to go through. You know what I mean? And like I said, the intensity of it, all it does is just test us. It is, you know what I mean, it's for that preparation, not abandonment or none of that type of stuff. It was just for preparation, and it was done for our sake. So we're going to pull something in 2 Corinthians. And everything I'm saying it's a purpose behind what I'm saying. So we're going to get to that to show you that. But we're going to pull a few other things right quick. We'll do 2 Corinthians. And we'll go 4 and 15. And say, for all things are for your sakes, that the abundant grace might through the thanksgiving of many redound to the glory of God. So, and that basically that redound means to be driven back to the glory of God. So that's basically everything was done to drive us back to, the purpose of God. So a lot of our outcomes that, going on, that basically went on through our history. A lot of our forefathers, foremothers, the things that we grew up in, it actually created this unbreakable will in a lot of us, a hardened drive that, to succeed is basically unmatched. I tell a lot of people that, what we went through, I don't think any other people could have went through it, and still come out, on the other side. So we basically, it's something within each of us to, to show that we have a purpose and we need to be trying to make sure we, fulfill that. So I want to pull a few things before we get cracking. All right, we're going to go to Genesis. Just to touch a little bit more on the suffering. Genesis, we'll do chapter 15. And let's do 13. And then we'll do 14. And if you could just look beyond what you see, it say, and he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. And afterward shall they come out with great substance, right? Showing that even through prophecy, a lot of prophecies on things like that, you'll see that there's going to be some suffering embedded in it. And it's there for a purpose. That's why he said, know of a surety that they're going to afflict them. But all of that is still done for a greater purpose. It's to form this certain result that he's looking for the future. So once you truly get resurrected and get to know who he is, it'll be all worth it if you actually just, hold to that. And let's pull some in Acts. And do Acts chapter. Yeah, bear with me. My Bible moving slow right now. If not, I'll go over here. Yeah. Acts. All right, we're going to do Acts chapter 9. And we'll pull 13 and 14. It say, no, we're gonna go through 16. I forgot. It say, then Ananias answered, Lord, I have heard by many of this man how much evil he have done to thy saints at Jerusalem. And here he have authority from the chief priests to bind all that call on thy way. All right. But we see through everything that he done, we see what is basically finna be said. It say, but the Lord said unto him, go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel unto me to bear my way before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. For I will show him how great things he must suffer for my ways' sake. So we see, to have this walk with Jehovah you have to go through suffering. This ain't no just easy cake walk. You just basically have to go through a lot of afflictions, a lot of we'll just say being mistreated by family, friends, others, because you have to, a lot of times you just basically have to bite your tongue on a lot of things. So you must, be prepared to go through that. So as you sitting there studying others in scripture, you'll see that these are things that is already been embedded in the ones that he's chosen. So we're going to pull some in 2 Timothy. Let me see if I can get this thing to work again. Second Timothy, we'll do chapter 2, and we'll pull 10 to 13. It's a therefore I endure all things for the elect's sake, that they may also obtain the salvation which is in the anointed way of salvation with eternal glory. It is a faithful saying, for if we be dead with him, we shall also live with him. If we suffer, we shall also reign with him. If we deny him, he also will deny us. If we believe not, yet he abideth faithful, right? He cannot deny himself. He don't change. So we have to be willing to go through this stuff. So we have to be, more of our brother's keeper in this walk. We might, exhorting one another through corrections, uplifting when others need uplifting. So I want to pull something in 2 Chronicles. And we'll do 6. We're going to pull chapter 28 down to 31. It say, if there be dearth in the land, if there be pestilence, if there be blasting or mildew, locusts or caterpillars, if their enemies besiege them in the cities of their land, whatsoever sore or whatsoever sickness there be, then what prayer or what supplication soever shall be made of any man or of all thy people Israel, when every one shall know his own sore and his own grief, and shall spread forth his powers in this house, then hear thou from heaven thy dwelling place, and forgive and render unto every man according to all his ways, whose heart thou knowest, for thou only knowest the hearts of the children of men, that they may fear thee to walk in thy way, so long as they live in the land which thou gavest unto our fathers, right? So it's more so just showing that what I had said earlier, that, through those sufferings that we go through, it should be a spiritual marker within it for us to question why we going through these calamities. We should, no matter what's going on in life, it's always should be like something to say, man, this can't just be happening just to be happening. So that gives us an opportunity to examine ourselves, and that's what we should be doing, so we can come to remembrance of what we need to. So we're gonna pull something in Jeremiah. And we'll pull chapter 29. And let's go 10 down to 12. Alright. We can just start to see something that we need to see. It say, for thus said the Spirit of God, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word towards you, in causing you to return to this place. Yeah, go down to 12. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, said the Spirit of God, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. So after this completion, this appointed time, Jehovah gonna visit. That's just basically what he gonna do, to perform his good word in our lives after we, like I said, acknowledge our sin. You know what I mean? But he gonna only visit Israel. And, you know what I mean? Not the ones that say they Israel. He visiting the ones that coming with the pure heart and all of those. So this is actually how he's operating. So we're gonna pull some in Psalms 34. And let's go to 19. It say, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Spirit of God delivered him out of them all. And we'll pull another one in James. And we'll do chapter 1 and then verse 12. It say, blessed, wisdom is given as the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Creator hath promised to them that promise him. So, as I said, we have to endure this suffering and these different temptations so that we can get that promise. So, I'm going to do a quick little recap, and we're going to kind of get ready to go into something a little bit more serious, but it just still showing that the responsibility to the ones that are chosen, right? They had to reject that victimhood mentality. Like I said, being chosen, it demands refusing to be defined as some sort of victim. How we normally say, I'm a product of my society. Nah, that ain't how it go. Being chosen, it requires, redefining your purpose. Finding that purpose is, you're trying to fulfill your purpose to Jehovah, and encouraging others also. Not gaining, like I said, this temporary wealth, this fame, this status is basically measured. It's measured by the impact of the ones that we inspire and influence to learn about Jehovah. This generation and the future generation. We have to always remember this one is have that personal accountability, and discipline. We have to examine ourselves, So in that pursuit of knowledge, because, reality is spiritual, when we spiritually ignorant, we still in bondage. So, ain't no way around that. When we spiritually ignorant, we still in bondage. So we have to always, every day, cultivate, tilling that ground in that word. That's basically where our strength lies, because that weakness in us, it don't do nothing but bring that destruction. So I'm gonna pull a couple of things, and then we're gonna kind of get into. It's a parable I want y'all to see. We're gonna go to Isaiah. We're gonna pull Isaiah chapter 43, and let's hit 6 through 7. It say, I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far, and my daughters from the ends of the earth, even every one that is called by my way, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him, yea, I have made him. Bring forth the blind people that have eyes, and the deaf that have ears. Right? So this is, that suffering is basically supposed to bring forth that renewed, we'll just say that newness in us. You know what I mean? A now a committed servant, and they basically been proven and tried. You know what I mean? In that furnace of adversity, and these are the ones that are gonna be called by His way. So we're gonna look at Luke right quick. We'll do Luke chapter 12. We'll do 35 through 37. It say Luke chapter 12, 35 through 37. It say, let your loins be girded about and your lights burning. We have to have that. And ye yourselves like unto men that wait for the Lord, when He will return from the wedding, that when He cometh and knocketh, they may open unto Him immediately. Blessed, wisdom is given, are those servants whom the Lord, when He cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that He shall gird Himself and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them. So as long as we continue to do this work, constantly preparing, bringing forth that true oil, that is burning, this is what we supposed to do. So I'm going to pull this one here in Jeremiah, and we're going to kind of get to some stuff I want you to see through everything I just shared. So we're going to do Jeremiah chapter 46. And then let's pull verse 28. And say, fear thou not, O Jacob, my servant, said the Spirit of God, for I am with thee. For I will make a full end of all the nations whither I have driven thee. But I will not make a full end of thee, but correct thee in measure. Yet will I not leave thee wholly unpunished. So this happened, and it's going to have to continue to happen if we actually truly believe and commit ourselves to JEHOVAH. So now we know the title of the video, being chosen by God, finding true love through suffering. So I want you to actually see something on this suffering where each one of us, there's I just say in the YouTube world, you can find this true love through suffering. We all have two options before us, and we each have this opportunity to choose life or actually remain in the construct of this world, actually living in an illusion and never being awakened so that we can live. And I want you to actually see the beauty of what we can become when we take off the old man and live in Christ. So as I said, we do have a choice on which suffering we're going to partake in, either through that disobedience and where we're going to get whooped, or through living in Christ where we know what the end, end result is. So before we jump into it, I want you to see something that's it's going to help you out with the parable. So, and a lot of us know, we're going to go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 31. And we're going to pull 31. 31. And we're going to take it down to 34. So it say, remember, the days come, said the Spirit of God, that I will make a new covenant. A new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, said the Spirit of God. But this shall be the covenant that I will make. Let me highlight that. With the house of Israel, after those days, said the Spirit of God, I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people. So that's basically, it's important. It's basically important on the parable that I'm about to show, because it's based on a bondmaid and a free woman, right? So we're going to kind of pull them side by side. I'm going to go to Galatians. And I'm going to just start with that one first. And we'll start at Galatians chapter 4. All right, yeah, that worked out. Okay. And we're going to do 22 to 24. Let me highlight it. All right. So we're going to kind of run this, and then it kind of going to take us on through it. But let me run this first. It say, for it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid, the other by a free woman, right? But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by the promise. So I'm going to kind of explain a little bit with that. So when you think about he that was born after the bondwoman, you can just jot this to the side. You can just think about the law of Exodus 20. You can just basically do 2 through 17. Just think about that when you thinking about the bondwoman. Just you can just jot that to the side, because I don't think I'd be able to read all those verses. So you can look at that as the bondwoman, right? And that's the one that's basically not able to cross over to the law of faith in Christ. And we can see that in, let's pull that one right quick. We got a couple of different places you can go. Deuteronomy 6 and 5. It say Deuteronomy chapter 6, 5, and you can do Deuteronomy 10, 12 also. It say, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. So that's that free woman. So when you seeing Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid and the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by the promise. So now we know which one is the bondwoman and the free. And then it say, which things are an allegory. Hold on, let me get back over there. Which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants. Y'all remember the covenants in Jeremiah, where he say gonna make a new covenant, which is actually just a familiar covenant. It say, which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants. The one from Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage. That's the Exodus 22 through 17. 22 through 17, that is gendereth to bondage, because you physically doing something to try to prove something, right? So now what we want to do is look at all of this, the two sons and the bondmaid and the free woman. So we're going to pull something side by side. We're going to go to 1 Kings. 1 Kings. Let's see where we at. 1 Kings 3. We're going to have to go down. And let's pull it to 16. And we're going to go down. I'm going to just do them one by one, because we're going to have to walk through this one. So now we're looking at that bondmaid and that free woman and the two sons, right? That Abraham said, why I kept it there. It say, then came there two women, right, that were harlots unto the king, and stood before him. We just gonna go on to verse 17. It say, and the one woman said, O my Lord, I and this woman dwell in one house. So they dwell in one house. That's a good thing. And I was delivered of a child with her in the house. So they both dwelled under one, we'll just say one family, one nation. And they actually just learned one way. So that all the works that they learned only came from that one house. I just want you to think about that right now. And we're going to keep going. So I kind of got, yeah. So she said, and one woman said, "Oh my Lord, I and this woman dwell in the one house, and I would deliver of a child with her in the house." So we see that she was delivered. I'm going to highlight these because I'm reading quicker than I'm highlighting. So yeah. And one woman said, "Oh my Lord, I and this woman dwell in one house, and I was delivered of a child with her in the house." All right. So now we're gonna go to verse 18. We're just doing one by one. It say, "And it came to pass the third day." The third day. So a lot of us should know what the third day is. We'll get to it. It say, And it came to pass the third day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also. And we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house. So, save we two in the house. So, actually what she was saying, that they both was resurrected. They were restored, purified, set free by that same doctrine that was contained within that house, right? And when no stranger, we'll just say no guests, no host, no outside influence came in the house. This is the one woman that's speaking first. And then we're going to go to 19. It's and this woman's child died in the night because she overlaid it. So she just letting her know that, and she arose. And this woman's child died in the night because she overlaid it, right? So this woman who she's speaking on, her work, that's basically what that child is. And this woman's child, that work, died in the night. So it departed from her in darkness or in ignorance because she hid it or covered it because she overlaid it. And now verse 20. It say, and she arose at midnight. And we already know, anytime folks doing something at night, think about the Pharisees and Nicodemus and all them. It say, and she arose at midnight and took my son, right, from beside me, while thy handmaid slept, and laid it in her bosom, and laid her dead child, her dead work, in my bosom. So that's actually what's going on here. She basically just letting her know that this lady, she came forth she didn't have no truth present in her. She came forth through this darkness and deceit, and she took the other lady child, or the other lady work, while she was asleep. And being asleep means she wasn't able to perceive it. And she laid her dead works in her own care. So I want you to, when you think of something like that, just think about them 5 foolish virgins, right? Or you can think about Cain, where she just trying to do the switcheroo, bringing, dead works, or, when prepared. So now when the time come to come see the king, now she want to try to, do a switcheroo that night. And that's what's actually going on. So, all right, so we're going to pull verse 21. It And when I rose in the morning to give my child her work suck or feeding, remember it was dead. But when I had considered it in the morning, so she was meditating on it in the morning, remember it was not my son, which I did bear. So she already knew. So once she became enlightened through knowledge and that understanding, and she was ready to, basically the work that she had, she was ready to give it even more feeding. But the work that was right there with her was dead. So now she's saying, after much meditation, I knew that there was not the work that she brought forth, right? Now you got this other lady finna say her piece, and we're gonna just pull 22 and 23. It say, and the other woman said, nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, no, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. I want y'all to look at something that I want to put something in your pocket right quick, just to remember something while all this going on. Let's go to Matthew. And we're going to pull Matthew 22. And we'll do 31. 31, 32, it say, but as touching the resurrection of the dead, have you not read that which was spoken unto you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So we see what's actually going on right here. He's not the God of the dead. He's the God of the living. So we'll get back to it, but it say, and the other woman said, nay, but the living is my son, and the dead is thy son. And this said, no, but the dead is thy son, and the living is my son. Thus they spake before the king. Then said the king, the one said, this is my son that liveth, and thy son is the dead. And the other said, nay, but thy son is the dead, and my son is the living. So this actually, it was actually going back and forth for a while. One actually telling lies while the other is pleading. Basically, she just wanted this resolution, and she basically want truth. But we always, should know one thing, right? That in any type of suffering, or when you're suffering through lies and deceit, actually JEHOVAH the one has an answer, and that answer is basically through His word. And this is normally what proves everything, and we can see that right here. That's finna actually go on in verse 24. What the king say? He say, all right. And the king said, bring me a sword. And they brought a sword before the king, right? One thing we know that, the word of God, it's gonna always try it works. It's gonna always try to, because He's not a God of the dead. So we can say, a lot of us, we've been putting forth this work and that work, but dead works ain't never gonna be accepted. You know what I mean? And, just think about the works you're going to, the living works and the dead works. I always look at those with the dead work. They actually display that Galatians 5:19 through 21. And those who have them living works, they're going to display Galatians 5:22 through 23. So now we're going to kind of be able to unpack this a little bit more. Verse 25, it say, here we go. And the king said, divide the living child in two, and give half to the one and half to the other, right? And then we'll go to 26. Then spake the woman, right, whose the living child was, unto the king, for her bowels yearned upon her son. And she said, let me highlight it. And she said, O my Lord, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. But the other said, let it neither be mine nor thine, but divided. If there was just us out, we should be able to recognize how a person move on, on the way they act, right? So, and you can see that basically with the mother. So you can just see showing that the ones that bring forth living works basically gonna always have compassion. And so we seeing that from the mother, right? Having compassion for the work's sake, basically not willing to destroy what they know, which was given to them in righteousness, that work. So that's basically what the true mother did. She displayed compassion through the suffering of not having a child, which she basically brought forth, and was willing to suffer for a long time so that her work can live And actually what this does is it breaks the bondage of the bondwoman, right? Because that compassion is a fruit of the spirit that we actually have to have, and all of that is contained within the free woman, right? So now we're going to go to 27 and say, then the king answered and said, give her the living child, and in no wise slay it. She is the mother thereof. So we see that that woman was actually the mother. The woman was the mother of the living. And that same mother, if you think about it, is still alive even today, because that's them fruits of the spirit also. But I want to show you something right quick. I want to pull this back over here in Galatians chapter 4. It say, but Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. I want y'all to remember that. Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. But I want to pull something side by side with this so I can show you something. We're going to go to Genesis, and we're going to go to chapter 3. And let's pull verse 20. Is it 20? Let me see. Yep, 20. I want to pull this side by side. It say, and Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. But then we got, but Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all, right? So when we go back to Genesis 3:20, and Adam called his wife Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Eve, right, is the mother of all those living according to the flesh. That's the bondmaid. And then Jerusalem, which is above, is free. That's spiritual, heavenly. That is the mother of us all, the ones that's living according to the spirit. That's the free woman. This is basically how we have this is basically where our mindset's supposed to start to shift. We can't live according to Eve no more. Yeah, we got on flesh, but we have to live according to Jerusalem. That's, spiritual. Our mindset has to shift toward this. I want to pull something right quick as we get ready to wind this one down, but I want to show you something, because we also know even through suffering, JEHOVAH, he actually is long suffering also. So I want to pull something in 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians. And we'll pull 1 and 17 through 18. It say, for Christ sent me not to baptize, but to teach the message, not with wisdom of words, lest the cross or the suffering of Christ should be made of none effect. For the preaching of the cross or the suffering is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved, it is the power of God. Man, that's saying so much, so that suffering is to those that actually believe. This is the power of God. But I want to pull something in Hebrews, because I want to tell y'all something right quick. We're going to go to Hebrews. We'll do chapter 12. And we'll pull 2. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. All right. It say, looking unto salvation, the author. Well, we're going to say the way of salvation, the author and the finisher, because ain't no man can do this. Looking unto salvation, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the the suffering, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. So we see that. But I want to tell y'all something, right? This past Sabbath, when I woke up, I started to meditate on something, right? Basically on suffering. And a couple of days before, I was looking at a scripture. I'm going to pull that scripture up. And I'm hoping it can help a lot of us what I'm about to say. It was Revelation 21. Revelation 21. And then we're going to pull 21 with it. Right? It say, and the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every 7th gate was of 1 pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it was transparent glass. Right? So I woke up just thinking about that, but I locked in on the pearls. Right? I just started focusing, meditating on the pearls, just meditating on the pearls. They were right before Elder Jenkins' Psalms thing. So I was like, you know what, pearls. And I remember a while back, it had been some years, Elder, he was asking about some stuff on the pearls, like, give a verse on when you see these pearls being made inside of an oyster. So as I was sitting there, I'm thinking about that. I'm just thinking on pearls and all of that, right? So, and I just wrote this out. It said pearls are brought forth through defense mechanisms, right? Because they're in the sea, they bottom dweller, and it's also likened to sufferings and afflictions, right? Pearls are brought forth from oysters in the sea. But I want y'all, everything I'm saying, I want y'all to kind of start to catch what I'm saying. Pearls are brought forth from oysters in the sea when unknown foreign objects enter inside their shells or living quarters, right? Showing all it is, right? It's basically showing that how even from those that come from the lowest parts of the sea or of a people that has much hardship, suffering, being bottom dwellers according to this world, beautiful things can come of those people. So I want you to see something right quick. We're going to go to Matthew. Matthew. $13. I just want to touch a little bit more on the pearls, and then I want to pull this last one after this. Matthew 13, and we're going to pull 44 through 46. It say, again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a treasure hid in the field, the which, when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof go and sell all that he hath, and buy that field. All right, here we go. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls, who, when he had found 1 pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had and bought it. Man, that's beautiful. So we actually seeing these goodly pearls. They basically have a lot of value to the merchant man. So it also, and if we think back on the gates, remember Revelation 21:21. So when you think back on the gates, it's showing that, those on that gate have endured sufferings and afflictions and have now fulfilled their true purpose to guard the gates in righteousness. And that actually brings me to that last verse before we get out of here. We're going to go to John. Chapter 1. All right. And we're going to do 45. It say, John chapter 1, 45, and we can do 46. It say, Philip findeth Nathanael and say unto him, we have found him, of whom Moses and the law and the prophets did write, JEHOVAH Nazareth, the son of Joseph. So, and it say, and Nathanael said unto him, can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? I want y'all to sit back and think about that. Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? So this is the same question that's actually even asked today. Can any good thing come from those people? You know what I mean? The ones that's, last hired, first fired. Those who actually live in red line communities and impoverished neighborhoods. Those that has to, tell their children how to, keep their hands up and things of that. And, I would basically answer it the same way that Philip said. Come and see. Can any good thing come from them people? Hey, come and see. So hopefully this lesson has actually been a blessing to some of you. And it's actually important for each of us to remove the ways of that bondmaid and now live under the free woman, producing living works that actually fit for the kingdom. And this is how we find that promise, finding that promise after our suffering. So if anybody have any questions that they want to send me, you can just email me at dmartin@kjbu.org, or you could just reach out to me, in the Zoom on the Sabbath, and we'll continue to push forward. So I just want to thank each and every one of y'all for joining with us this evening. And until next time, I'd like to say, shalom, shalom.